This is an informational webinar about the 2026 Specialty Crop Block Grant Program administered by NYFVI or SCBG. So let's get into it. First, here's just a brief overview of the programs we got going on here at FVI. The FVI grant has already closed. That is in review, with projects expected to be announced in late spring, early spring into the spring, I guess is a good way of saying it. That's for one of our research and education grant programs. And then the USDA Specialty Crop Block Grant, this program, is now open. We are accepting applications into February with announcement in April expected as well. As for a more producer side of things, we have our New York State Gordon Certified Research and Development Grant Program that will hopefully be opening in the next few weeks here, along with the Beginning Farmer Competitive Grant Round 2. Both of those are hopeful to be opened in the next month or two. So, as for today's agenda, we're just going to go over the RFP basics. So, USDA products process, New York's eligibility and timing, understanding USDA outcomes and indicators, scoring criteria, and then just some online platform tips if you guys are new to the grant management platform we use. So it's just a quick overview of the USDA SCBG program. USDA, as a brief overview, just allocates funds to each state by a formula. Applications are received, like the USDA receives applications from each state's Department of Agriculture. Then they use that formula to allocate funds. And then in partnership with Ag and Markets, we at NYFVI administer the competitive grant program, and we award around $600,000 every year. And so with all of that reporting going on, with all those layers going on, all the reporting you guys send back to us is then sent off to the state, which is then submitted to the USDA. That's kind of a big flow through. So what does timing for this exact program look like? The RFP is open now. Applicants must register to the online platform. That link can be found on our website, nyfvi.org. You're looking for the Found It link. When you get taken to that site, you'll be in the right spot. Applications are due February 16th at midnight. So please make sure, if you're working on paper or you're working offline, whatever you're doing, please make sure you submit them into the system and hit submit on those at the bottom, because they will not be accepted if they are not submitted by the 16th at midnight. That is a hard cutoff. Like I said earlier, we are hoping to notify applicants in April on if they've been selected or not, with the earliest project start date being January of 27. So all projects must complete within 2 years, nothing later than June of 2029 as well. So what about this year's programming and size, eligibility, all those things. So projects between $50,000 and $250,000 will be accepted, with $600,000 being awarded. So, if we get a lot of heavy hitter programs, we're going to be awarding a lot less, obviously, if there's more grant funds requested. With a maximum indirect established by the USDA of 8%. Now, who is an eligible applicant? That would be non-for-profit organizations, non-for-profit educational institutions, and then local and tribal governments as well. So just as a brief overview of the RFP, the request for applications, this is kind of going to be the application headers we have in our application. So when you log into the grant management platform, you will see these are the headers of our program. You see we're collecting things from, partners and summaries, those kind of things, ag production sector, to outcomes and measurable indicators, external project support. We're going to grab a work plan from y'all and some budgeting sheets as well. Now we've gotten into some technical terms. So as a brief overview, the USDA defines outcomes as broad goals, each associated with specific and measurable indicators. Indicators being specific items that will measure our project's progress in achieving its outcome. Applicants must establish a numerical target for any indicator that is aligned with their project. And then objectives are steps to demonstrate progress to achieving an outcome. So Kind of they all flow together, kind of all parts of the same machine very clearly. So we have also on top of that added a SMART goal, and that simply kind of brings them all together, helps kind of bring it into one piece. So it's really clear to see how the project is going to flow overall. The USDA has established outcomes. You can see these outcomes are listed as 4, 5, 6, and 7. Those outcomes being improvement of pest and disease control processes, developing new seed varieties and specialty crops, expanding specialty crop research and development, and improving environmental sustainability of specialty crops. So what are some of the indicators? And what are acceptable indicators as well? There's a document linked on our website in the application, and that is kind of written in the past tense final report. That is kind of how you're going to establish the indicators you have done to see if your project, so we can see the indicators you're doing with your project, is a simple way of saying it. Reading those indicators closely will help clarify the outcomes best aligned with your proposal. So it might be a good idea to read that before you start applying, before you start pulling your application together, just to kind of get a clear picture of where you want to go with your project. And just keep in mind that target values must be established for indicators. So, as you're starting to pull your project together, as you're starting to think through those things, make sure you're keeping in mind values and a numerical outcome. And all activity described in a proposal must be in support of an outcome and an indicator. If there's an indicator that's appropriate, a target value should be established. So, like we said, numerical outcomes are really helpful. So please be using those and keep those in mind as we start looking into developing your applications. So with that, you guys should all be able to use your mics. Let me know if you can't using the chat or something, but do you guys have any questions? If there's no questions, we can just keep going, but I just want to pause here for a second.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for the list of eligible participants, is a farm business an eligible participant if we are not a nonprofit?
Aaron, do you want to?
Yeah. No, that you would have to partner with someone.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you can you can contact us and if you need help with finding someone, but yeah, you would need to partner.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Which outcome would a project on irrigation fall into? Like a cultural practice type thing. Expand specialty crop research and development?
It could. What exactly are you thinking about in terms of irrigation, right? Aaron, do you agree?
Yeah, I was just going to ask what can you be a little bit more specific?
So we just came out of a drought year and just getting more growers to implement irrigation, maybe measuring soil moisture and more fine-tuned scheduling of irrigation, that type of work.
Yeah. So for me, I would say that.
And is it cost effective for like potatoes, for example?
Right. So I would say either 6 or 7. It kind of depends on how, what are you looking? I mean, we don't, this isn't really a place right here to go into detail, but it kind of depends on, is it, more about saving the economic, or sorry, not benefiting the economics of farms, or is it more about climate resiliency and, and they can both be in there, but kind of what's the main one
so
outcome you're looking for?
6 is more about economics, and 7 I think 7 might be driving awareness and adoption of practices as well as developing or improving new tools or technologies.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions at this time? If not, we'll just keep rolling. Alrighty. So looking at the scoring criteria, I think it's helpful to understand the scoring criteria before you go into the application. Just kind of get a picture before you, as you start to develop your application. It's helpful to know what you're going to be scored against. So how we at FEI do our scoring is all of our the proposals we receive will be reviewed both by review panels of farmers and by our board, which is made up of primarily farmers as well. So kind of a two-pronged approach. And then final funding decisions will be made after those two reviews have both been concluded. There is a linked document on our website along within the RFP itself that will take to the full scoring criteria. It'll be like kind of a rubric for scoring that will show, what how it's actually being scored. We actually have a kind of a briefer version of it on the next slide. So we're going to hop over there. So this isn't changed radically, just more some terminology has changed on our end this year into this new round of this program. But the biggest change I'm going to call out is these bonus points. USDA has asked me to assign bonus points or Ag and Markets has asked to assign bonus points. They're putting an emphasis on two of the priorities. Those priorities are projects developing and increasing utilization of IPM strategies and programs to address pest and disease threats in New York specialty crops, and projects that will provide research, demonstration, and training to develop, test, or increase adoption of innovative specialized equipment for weed management. So there's been a focus put on those two priorities. So all projects that fall under those two priorities will be assigned an extra 5 points. That is the biggest change in terms of scoring criteria we have seen in this coming round. So with that, do we have any questions about the scoring criteria? Anything about the bonus points? Anything like that we can help with at this time?
Oh, sorry. Can you state the categories for the bonus points again?
Sure. Projects developing projects that will develop and increase the utilization of IPM strategies and programs to address pests and disease threats in New York State specialty crops. Projects that will provide research, demonstration, and training to develop, test, or increase adoption of innovative, specialized equipment for weed management.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions on scoring criteria at this time? All right. So now we're going to start looking at the online system itself. Just some tips and tricks as you get into it. If you're unfamiliar with the Founded system, that's what we use in terms of to administer our grant programs. So just some quick tips on things that are helpful to know. The system, and I'll open the system in a second, so you'll be able to see everything. The system will always save your work as you go. So unless you are on an internet outage, everything will be auto-saved. It also will let you add your own collaborators. So if you're working with someone, like you are a farm business that's trying to work with, someone that is through a nonprofit educational institution, they can add you as a collaborator to the application directly. Super helpful. You're able to close sections as an entirety. You can truncate them, so you can quickly move through the application and easier to navigate. And then the biggest thing I can call out is we've run into a lot of issues of people working offline. So in a Word document or however they're doing it, and then trying to just copy and paste into the application system. If you do not paste as a plain text, some people have run into issues where it's saying you've exceeded your character count, even though you haven't. So if you're running into that issue, you feel like you're under the character count, but you're still getting the error that you're over character count, just try removing all the text and pasting it as a plain text, and that should hopefully fix your issue. And with that, these applications are on a character count system, not a word count. So just keep that in mind as you look at that. So I'm going to pull up the application system now so we can look at that and take you through the application itself. So if you are a returning applicant, so if you have applied before in the past as a to any of our programs, this is the screen you'll likely see when you log in. You'll see this no action needed, completed, historical, all those things. And to get back to the main application view, when you can see all of the current programs we're offering, you're going to want to hit the see opportunities up in the corner, and you will be brought back here. If you are a new applicant, you'll be brought to this automatically. If you're returning, you'll go to that other screen first. So you just want to hit apply here. Now, just some quick things to call out right on the top if it finishes loading. Here it is. If you are someone who prefers to work on pen and paper, that is fine, but just keep in mind it has to be submitted through this system. So if you want to pull out the pen and paper, you're going to have to hit this question list here. That will download or create a PDF version of the application itself so that you can work on it on pen and paper. And you can just print it out, work on it that way, if that's something that you prefer. Otherwise, if you want to close all the sections and just work on one, you can hit this collapse all groups. It'll truncate it down. You can just pull up the section you're working on. It should be fairly self-explanatory. I think the directions are quite clear, and the system itself tries to help you through it. But anything with a star on it is a required question. So if you're getting an error that you haven't answered all required questions, just go back and look for the ones you haven't answered. And anything that's highlighted blue, like text that's highlighted blue like this, is typically a link. So there's things you can click on that will help you, helpful links. This one's to the scoring criteria. This one's to the outcomes and measurable indicators. So a bunch of helpful things there that we've added. We've also added some links throughout that will take you to different sections within Founded that will help you if you're struggling on a certain section. So, if you need technical help with the platform, there's some links throughout here that can help you with that as well. But the other big thing I want to call out with this system is there are certain questions that are branching questions. So if you select a certain option, it will bring up different parts of the application depending on what you have selected. I think this might be one of them. Let's find out together. It is not. Okay. So as you're working through the application, you might find some questions that will bring up other sections. And so if you, again, run into that issue of where it says you haven't answered all questions, and you have answered if you said yes to one of these branching questions and it brought up a section you didn't want to bring, you just have to hit no on that question or something like that. Let me see if I can find one quick. Yes, here it is. So here's a good one, right? If you have more than one SMART goal, you're going to want to hit yes here, and that'll bring up a different part of the application where you can add a second SMART goal. Now, if you want to get rid of that now because you realize you don't actually have a second SMART goal, you're just going to have to hit no, and that will go away. So if you're running into an issue where it feels like all the questions are answered, but they're not, make sure you haven't selected a branching question you need to select. That is about all I have in terms of technical tips of the application. And that also brings us to the end of this presentation. This is fairly short. We've tried to button it up a little bit since previous years. So I'm now going to open the floor back to questions. This whole presentation will be available online. We'll post it to our website. But if y'all have any questions now that Aaron and I can answer, we can do our best to answer them. So please, if you have questions, ask them now.
I have a question regarding the plants that are acceptable for this grant. So my essentially what I'm trying to do is R&D to help create enterprise budgets around specialty crop, medicinal herbs specifically. And some of the plants that I'm looking to do R&D on are not on the list of crops, but some are. So what's the best way to handle that when I'm writing the grants?
Yeah, I'll have to ask our contact at Egg and Markets about that. So I am a new executive director here, so I'm still finding things out myself. But I would say that just keep in mind that The review panel is our board, and they're all farmers. So the people with the farmers will be matched up with kind of the area of the proposal, and it's going to be up to them to deem whether it's worthy to go on or not. To then Egg and Markets, which will then have their own review panel. So all that to say is that, you know, they're gonna really be the ones to determine if they think that it's important or not. So not to pass the buck onto them, but just, you know, if it's too experimental or, you know, too innovative, too new, this may not be the right place for that. But I don't want to discourage you yet.
Great. Yeah, I was just wondering if I should include maybe like the production cost of the plants that are eligible, or maybe and just exclude the cost of the plants that aren't eligible into the grant, or maybe that's a way to just get around it. But
that could be if the grant is not paying for specifically that part of it, that might be a way to get around it. So I will see what they suggest.
okay. Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right.
All right.
Tim, I
Those are
think we can
questions.
wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. We appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing your applications. Thanks so much.